Well,
My hair is okay. And welcome everyone. We are live. This is used to be I Need Living Conversations. Now it's Owl Freedom Teachings. I am Julian Katari. I am with Blue Heron Woman. And we're going to continue with this whole set of conversations we've been having around the subject of love, seduction, and sexuality. This is the arts of seduction, and this is a really important topic to go on because you cannot be free if you don't touch this, if you don't revise, if you don't open up to see different things, to learn new things about your sexuality, about your intimate life, if you don't relate that to other things in your life, then you are not fully open, you're not fully holistic. It's something that is very important if you want to be free, if you want to be sovereign, if you want to do permaculture, whatever it is you want to do, you want to look at your intimacy life. So, welcome to this
right.
conversation. I hope it's very, very informative for you. So, welcome.
Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit of philosophy every week and then a
Okay.
sexual philosophy, sexual spiritual philosophy, and then continue with the arts of seduction, which is the Kama Sutra.
Okay. So, it's like you're going to give us a little short philosophical thought,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Okay.
Which kind of continues on what you were saying. So, like, if sex were merely the natural mating behavior of putting tab A into slot B, everyone would
Mhm.
be good, right?
Yeah.
Everyone would be great at it. But
Yeah.
sex isn't just about how we do or who we do and how we do them. And it isn't only about the ways we get aroused and orgasmic either. Our sexuality goes to the heart of who we all are. All of our relationships, not just sexual ones, grow from this root. So the more we understand who we are sexually and how we each operate, the better we do in all aspects of our life, especially sex.
Mhm.
There's no question that sex is a natural behavior, which for most animals means an acting out of their automatic acting out of their breeding blueprint.
Mhm.
However, we as humans are a fancy animal with big malleable brains. So we're the learning animal and are the results of a dance between biology and culture. So that means each of us is a dance between, we're the result of a dance between biology and culture, and we are a dance
Mhm.
between biology and culture.
Okay.
So most of us might say, well, sex is natural. I don't need a teacher for that. And this is both true and not true. We come equipped with hardware, the mammalian humping motion, for instance, with part A
Mhm.
inserted into slot B.
Mhm.
But we're not just hardwiring. We also
Mhm.
have software, which is the programming or our culturally learned behavior or domestication. So we do more learning than any other species on this planet. So much of our sexuality is learned and absorbed through our lifetime as we simmered in a soup of culture. We learn from our culture how to kiss and how to caress and so on. So, in other words, yes, sex is very natural and great, but mutually pleasurable, extended, massive orgasm sex is
Mhm.
totally learned. It's
Okay.
not natural because there
Mhm.
is no animal that has extended, massive orgasms.
Okay.
So we're all on a lifelong journey in our Earth school. And by now choosing to make sex conscious part of it, we can make our lives better, filled with more pleasure, more power, and more connection. So, expertise in arousal and orgasm is where our erotic virtuosity begins. Sexual arousal is an altered state of consciousness that operates differently from our everyday awareness. It's being in non ordinary reality.
Mhm.
Arousal causes our hearts to speed up, our breathing to quicken, etc., and we become absorbed and entranced. Arousal alters our perception of both pain and pleasure. And although the capacity for arousal, pleasurable arousal, is something we're all born with, we can learn to deepen that pleasurable arousal trance while expanding the pathways that lead us into a blissful, altered state of consciousness. And this is important because for millennia, we've been operating in the arousal trance of misery and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we allow ourselves to surrender to the pleasure arousal trance, the more we cultivate the practices that bring us there, and we find ourselves having the transcendent sex we dream of. Pleasure arousal is a journey into enchantment, a trip into a dramatically altered state of being. So the process of arousal, we could say would be like climbing a set of stairs. That's like 10 steps. We can only ascend one step at a time as we require the stimulus of the physiological feedback to propel us to the next level of arousal. And we could say this 10-step process could be thought of as having 3 phases of 3 steps each, plus the very special 10th step. So the first 3 steps would be early arousal, the next 3 medium level arousal, and the last 3 is high level arousal. And then the 10th step is where we lift off into orgasmic orbit, where we ride the wave of our orgasms. And they're not necessarily just sexual orgasms. We're going to talk about a whole lot of orgasms.
Okay.
Because most of us believe there's only one type of orgasmic experience and think of it as a short-lived genital climactic experience. And now looking at this relationship I've been in for the last 2+ years, we're in our 3rd year, I can see where the first year was absolutely early arousal. And about a little bit over a year ago, 1 year and 3 months ago, we ascended into medium arousal when he asked me if I wanted him to move in with him. And we're just kind of coming into high arousal now on his part. So this is kind of exciting. It's like, oh, we're about to know how long will these last 3 steps take? I'm excited to see this. So again, so this is kind of this whole developing relationship has been an orgasmic experience, although I wouldn't have necessarily described it as such beginning with it, but now I see that it is. So, but most of us probably believe that there's only one type of orgasmic experience which is a short-lived genital climactic experience. However, orgasm can be much more than that. It can be wave upon wave of ecstasy lasting many minutes. And then you can get to where you stay in a general state of orgasm, rising and falling, cresting into pleasure over and over again. And that's, again, not necessarily also just strictly sexual. We can experience pleasure so many other ways, too. But we can experience orgasm in any part of our body. We can have orgasms as women that include only part of our genitals, like the clitoris, or ones that include every part. Our orgasms can help us experience our divinity. And finally, it can take the form of a shared lovegasm centered in our heart and the hearts of our beloved. We can all become erotic virtuosos and orgasmonauts, exploring the vast realms of orgasmic experience.
Orgasmonauts, that's a cool word.
Yeah. So then there's little tickly genital sneeze orgasms, big ones, bigger ones, and even bigger ones with megagasms that go on forever. There's multi-orgasms, laughgasms, sobgasms, lovegasms, chakragasms, releasing waves of flowing surrender orgasms, fierce clutching driving orgasms, mini orgasms, and other shocks. And then we only talk about them as pleasure. But I would say, seeing as how the sympathetic nervous system is where the arousal comes from, and we have fight, flight, feed, food, and fornication. So fight and flight can also be an orgasmic experience, one of displeasure, not pleasure.
Okay.
So yeah, so when we look at yeah, it's yeah, there's all kinds of orgasms. Life is orgasmic. So there's orgasm centered in different body parts and sex centers. There are full body orgasms, projectile squishing, squirting orgasms with female ejaculation, surprise orgasms that sneak up on us, and telepathic mind blowers when we feel in perfect intuitive union with our partner.
Wow. That's pretty
Those
cool.
are all the pleasurable ones.
Yeah.
Right? And how do we get there? Through the arts of seduction. So last week we ended with the language of lovers. So now we're going to start with love bites. Just as the ocean is aroused into crashing waves by the rays of the moon, so is the mind of the lover aroused by the sight of the beloved's throat framed by a necklace of love bites. The Kama Shastras are the only texts in the world that describe love bites in terms of romance and refinement, giving them the delicate and evocative vocabulary of a love letter. We Americans know the love bite as a hickey.
Okay.
The Kama Sutra says love bites have an erotic currency that few other things can compare with, and it considers love bites to be one of the 64 essential lover skills that need to be learned. And there were different bite marks for different occasions, and there were 10 types of love bites, and each has a different pressure. The discreet bite is the gentlest and is made on the lower lip. The empresses bite then is also on the lower lip, but it's harder. And then the bindu dot, so the discreet bite just teases her lip into her lower lip into swollenness. Then the empresses bite might leave a bit of a mark, depending on her level of arousal. Then there's the bindu or dot, which is the tiniest bite and no larger than the size of a sesame seed. That's got to be challenging. And it's done by nipping the skin between two teeth. It was made on the lower lip, but then also on various parts of the body. Next came the bindu mala, or the necklace of dots. The lover made a series of sesame-shaped dots in little looping circles to look like a piece of jewelry. This, of course, takes a very long time, and so therefore was a badge of honor. Then there were the coral necklace and necklace of corals bites, which leave marks with distinctly red centers without drawing blood. The coral is made when the same spot is squeezed several times between the top incisors and the lower lip. Then there's the scattered cloud bites that says, I'm going away on a long journey and I'm going to miss you. While the chewing bite of the wild boar said, I have just returned and thought of nothing but a wild night of passion with you. And these bites are made on the breasts. The Kama Sutra says there's an artery that directly connects the nipples to the erotic nerve center in the yoni or the vagina. And modern science also confirms that the nipples of the woman specifically the woman, but also the male, are directly connected to the erotic nerve center in the brain. And so repeated love bites on the breasts will make the vulva spasm to give the ultimate orgasm. And then the most romantic love bites were those sent as messages on petals of flowers or leaves, and these were like a carefully composed love letter. The erotic nerves. According to ancient love texts, there are 24 nerves that run through the human body that cause erotic excitement. These nerves start in various places in the body, and we'd never learned about this in science. In nursing school, I can tell you that. And they all end up in the genitals. For men, the nerve endings are concentrated mostly in the anus, and for women, they're in the vagina. From these 24 nerves, women have another 6 major nerves of sexual excitement that run along the inside walls of the vagina and end at different depths. So we all hear about the G spot, but that's minor compared to what truly is in the vagina.
Mhm.
The Kama Sutra text lists the nerves by their main method of arousal. So the first group of nerves are the ones that should be aroused with the mouth. Lips carry an electric charge. So when you rub your lips on any part of the body for a length of time, the charge transfers itself to that nerve, and it is the charge that causes the excitement. Of these nerves, there are 2 in the eyes, 2 in the mouth, 1 in the lower lip, and 1 in the big toe of the left foot. So the best way to stimulate the eyes of your beloved men is to alternately cover and uncover them while kissing them lightly and repeatedly. The left eye is most sensitive during the waning phase of the moon, and the right eye during the waxing phase.
Oh.
The 2 nerves in the mouth are in the left cheek and should be aroused with the tongue. The tongue should be rolled as to make a little point at the end and pushed against the inside of her cheek. And then the nerve in the lip should be bitten hard enough so the lip becomes swollen, but not so hard that it leaves a mark. And then finally, they say the big toe is stimulated by playing footsie with it. But then there's a Tibetan text that says always to use the mouth too. And now I would argue with that, because I would say these erotic nerves are on both sides, because I can tell you what, you can stimulate a baby goat into absolute pleasure faster than not by rubbing both sides of their mouth.
Okay.
Right there. They just absolutely go into ecstasy when you do that.
Okay.
And the same with kitties. Now I can see my kitties that they really do like the left side of their face rub most, but they all love both sides of their face, right there by the mouth. That's where they're always wanting. So yeah, I can see that, but I don't think they're just in the left. I think they're on both sides. So then the next are the nerves that are aroused by scratching. These nerves run through the ears, the forehead, the thighs, the hips, the navel, and the lower back and bum. And most of them have to be scratched quite aggressively, as they are quite deep. And of course, the deepest are the ones in the buttocks. The most shallow run through the cartilage of the upper ear and across the forehead. Another 2 erotic nerves run along the curve of the waist and should be stimulated with love bites. And all the erotic nerves pass through the navel on their way to the genitals, making it a very excitable spot. And it is best excited by patting gently with the open palms, and also with piercings, perfuming, and massaging.
Interesting.
Yeah. The last are the 4 erotic nerves that run through the nipples. Western science confirms that the nerves in the nipples, again, are directly connected to the brain's erotic center and carry the most powerful sexual impulses. Since the 6th century, Ayurveda has been telling us that the nipple nerves hold the key to unlocking the yoni, or the vagina. Mm-hmm. So the best way to stimulate them is with chin stubble, men. Mm-hmm. And then your lips and your teeth. Placing your mouth and chin on the nipple, move your face side to side, quickly interspersing the movement with gentle bites. And if done rightly, she will actually feel her yoni start pulsing and begin to open up.
Wow.
So then the 6 erotic nerves in the walls of the yoni, the vagina, are at different depths. And so this makes our elusive G-spot somewhat obsolete, as the entire yoni or vagina is popping with X, Y, and Z spots. Mm-hmm. So the Kama Sutra has a very detailed description for these, but we're not going to address them here tonight. Mm-hmm. It might be too X-rated for.
Oh, it already is. Don't worry. Like they haven't. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, like YouTube will automatically put us on age restriction, but they won't cut it off. Yeah.
But yeah. So then the phases of the moon. By following the lunar calendar and varying the side of our caresses accordingly, we can see our lover light up in successive places. The Kama Sutra says that the different phases of the moon create different erogenous zones all around our body, which shift and change every day, which makes sense. But we're so disconnected from that. So each phase has its own corresponding G spot then, and each G spot has its, or X, Y, and Z spot has its own method of arousal. So there's 30 erogenous zones on the body corresponding to the 30 phases of the moon cycle. I think we're a little bit, because the moon cycle is 28 days, right? So it would be 14 or 15 on the left and 14 or 15 on the right. And the seat of sexual excitement per the Kama Sutra sits right up here in the hair parting at the top of the head. So starting on the new moon with the big toe on the left foot for women and the right foot for men, sexual excitement moves up the body for 14 to 15 days of the waxing half of the month until it reaches the head during the full moon, and then starts down the opposite side of the body for the next 14 to 15 days until it reaches the foot. And most of our instructions here are focused on the women because men have the advantage of being visual. So men, when you see your lover come to arousal, it excites you, especially when you see this arousal as the result of your actions. So beginning on the first day after the full moon, the women's head and hair have this greatest sexual energy and should be kissed and massaged gently. The next day, it's the eyes that are most sensitive and should be kissed lots. The next day, focus on her lips, and the next, her cheeks. The cheeks should be kissed and softly bitten. And according to the Kama Sutra, the cheeks are amongst the most sensitive and erotic parts of their body, and their nerve endings are exactly like the nerves in the vulva. The fifth day of the waning moon is the day of rest for the man, as her sexuality is now self-sufficient and she doesn't need his help to achieve active arousal. The sixth day, the throat is most sensitive and should be scratched gently. The next day is the curve of the waist, again aroused by gentle scratching. And on the next, the nipples are most sensitive. And the next day, the entire bosom or chest area. Day, the navel is most sensitive. The 11th, the buttocks, and they should be kneaded with nails and squeezed and pressed hard. And the rest of the days, you just work your way down her legs. And then with the new moon, you start back up on the left side. So then the next one is scratching and the art of lovemaking. According to the Kama Sutra, scratching was one of the top 3 must-have skills for any lover. Scratches, like love bites, had a vocabulary all their own. Different scratches on specific spots carried different messages. So according to the Kama Sutra, a scratch was like a love letter, and like a love letter, it had the power to excite you every time you looked at it. The expert lover knew how to scratch, when to lightly scrape the nails across the skin to leave the beloved quivering in anticipation, and when to really drive in the nails to heighten the ecstasy of the moment. And both men and women were skilled in the art of scratching. Love scratching was done with the nails of the left hand, as the right hand was used for eating and the left hand for sex. So then the nails on the left hand were shaped according to the person's sexual energy and proficiency in bed. If you had fierce sexual energy, you shaped your nails into 2 or 3 points like the teeth of a saw. I can't imagine shaping the nail of each finger into 2 or 3 points. That would take a long time. If you were of medium energy, you filed them into a single point, and if you were of mild sexual energy, they would be just natural, like the shape of a half moon. And love scratches were then to be made on 7 specific areas of the body: the neck, the cheeks, the breasts, or the chest, the back, thighs, lower belly, and buttocks. And it was not to be done at the beginning of foreplay. It's for when excitement has mounted and passions are hot, and every sexual encounter is not suitable for scratching. And there were 8 types of scratches, love scratches, as told by the Kama Sutra, and we're not going to go into those tonight also.
Okay.
Then there's the art of the curved finger. In 18th century Europe, using the fingers to pleasure yourself was a crime and could have you burnt at the stake. But yet, by the 19th century, women were diagnosed to be suffering from an unreasonable illness called hysteria, and the fingers became cure for this. You could
I've heard
relieve a
about that
woman of most. Oh, what?
Yeah, I've heard about that before, yeah. And I think you
Yeah,
brought
I
it up
think we talked.
before too. Hmm.
Yeah. So you could relieve a woman of most of her symptoms by stimulating her with your fingers until she reached orgasm, and most doctors would offer this service for a fee of $2. The problem was it was slow, and it could take an hour to stimulate a woman properly, and so we had the advent of the mechanized vibrator. But 2,000 years ago, the Kama Sutra believed the art of the curved finger was the ultimate way to pleasure the woman, and it was the doorway to orgasm. Because the yoni, or the vagina, is a veritable Aladdin's cave full of G, X, Y, and Z spots that are all around and at different depths, and only the curved finger could do justice.
Okay.
Both Ayurveda and Chinese medicine tell us that each finger of the hand represents a different element. So each finger will have a different impact. And if you combine 2 or more fingers, the energies will change accordingly. Finger combinations then are known as mudras, and some could make the woman melt into orgasm, while some would agitate her into a quivering mass of anticipation. And some could make her calm and deep like a pool of money, or honey, not money, while others would flare her up like burnt chilies. So the index finger is the energy of air, and they say this finger then is too powerful to be used by itself, as the burst of energy will numb the excitement instead of generating.
Mm-hmm.
And fingers can do for a woman what nothing else can, because they can access areas that are otherwise hard to penetrate, and fingers can change the pressure, the touch, and the sensations at will.
Yeah.
So there's one mudra. It's called, I'm not even going to say it, the middle finger on top of the index finger. Mm-hmm. Twisting your hand back and forth, it gets everything moving. And then the next one, the index finger is on top of the middle finger. So you just change positions, giving you in more width and length. And then one uses the second, third, and little fingers. Mm-hmm. While I was typing this, I was like, that's going to take skill. Second, third, and that's going to take skill. While keeping the thumb and index finger closed. Mm-hmm. Then you middle and little finger join to the thumb to create the shape of the bow. This is used for loosening and widening the yoni, preparing it for penetration. Mm-hmm. Join the little and middle fingers to resemble the crescent moon. This is the most effective way to reach the erogenous, the little and the middle fingers. Wow. Again, skills, men. Mm-hmm. Limbering up your fingers. This is the best way to reach the erogenous points on the ceiling of the yoni, in a particular place just behind the clitoris. And this can arouse even the difficult women who are difficult to bring to sexual excitement. Then the ring and middle fingers create the mudra known as the hook, because it has the power to hook the lover, and it brings her to orgasm quickly. Then the middle and little fingers are called the elephant trunk, can be used in any direction to leave her wanting more. And then just the little finger with the rest of the fingers balled up against the lips of the yoni, that created additional circular massaging motion. Yeah. So, and it goes on for a few more, a couple more. So men, yeah, you got to get your fingers limbered up for this. Teach your
Yeah.
brain that those fingers can do all kinds of freaking things.
Mhm.
So, and then the next one that we'll end with tonight is dildos.
Okay.
Oh, according to the Kama Sutra, not vibrators, dildos were very important as they were arts of seduction tools that lovers could use to bring each other to greater heights of passion and fulfillment. So, metallurgy and woodwork were amongst the 64 essential skills so that lovers could create their own dildos. The
Wow.
lover's main purpose of a dildo use during sex was to bring their partner to ultimate through fulfillment through all the many arts of touching, loving, and pleasuring. And dildos could be made of wood, and it could also be made of precious metals.
Yeah.
And the Kama Sutra recommends 10 different distinct strokes for using dildos, and I didn't put those out yet, so we won't go into those tonight. But yeah,
that's very detailed stuff.
yeah. But I think this is really great. It's so much better than the boring, right?
They're not doing anything. Just
New.
repeat the same thing.
Just yeah. That's why I say it boring, because it's just constantly a repeat. I think that's kind of where I got as a woman with sex, is it's just like it's always the same. But this makes it more interesting, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me desiring to have somebody try it with me.
Yeah. And it can transform so many other things. Just settling into this information, just growing up into accepting how important it is to us, for us to get out of this censorship paradigm and be able to talk about these things. You know what? One of the things that came into my mind right now when you were talking about the dildos is, because I used to be a goldsmith, like, I should have done a silver dildo. And then, but I would put myself back into the mindset I had back then, and I was already kind of on the path. But I probably would have thought of that, because I was way younger, as kind of too like the depraved or something. Why would you make a dildo, right? But now I'm thinking,
right.
It would be artistic, it would be provocative, but at the same time, be useful, and it doesn't have to be kind of depraved in that, doesn't have to be tagged as a bad thing. Why can't it's a sacred thing? And a good example of that, at least here in Mesoamerica, do you know there's in Chichen Itza, there's a temple of the dildos. There's they have a temple full of penises sticking up. It's it was a very important thing here in Mesoamerica. Dildos sticking out of the ground, and just dildo statues everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Well, I mean, like we mentioned early, the Indian male lover was considered to be a warrior, to always change it up, and that's kind of the Japanese attitude of Kaizen, is how can you do just something a little bit different that's makes things a little bit better every day.
Yeah.
Or every time. Yeah. It's so, but we get so into a habit of just doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah. Wow. So there it is, an overview of the arts of seduction and how we bring this into context of how this is important if we ever want to, because it really makes parts of our minds transform, parts of our minds and souls open up to, if I was shy, if we were shy about this, we cannot be shy about this.
No, you cannot.
We have to open this up so that we can, because if we don't, we're just going to replicate the same model
Yes.
over and over. The
And
same
for it,
with the old new world order.
yeah,
The
yeah.
same old new world order. Yeah.
So for our Udalville, pleasurable, gratified, heavenly life, farming societies, this topic of sex is going to be front and foremost all the time.
Yeah.
Because it has to be when people live together. It has to be.
Yeah.
We have to shed all our inhibitions.
Yeah. I remember my dad, a friend of mine, used once told me, "Hey, have you checked out these? There's this communities in Portugal that are kind of trying to do some new stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out." So, and I I opened a web page, and I showed my dad, and my dad, who's supposed to be a very open-minded kind of revolutionary guy, he's like, "What?" First, because this community in Portugal was very focused on this, and on the front, the main image in the website was a guy with two women, and not like depicted in like, no, it was like, here we are kind of open, and it's part of our philosophy that people have different relationships, not the same old heteronormative relationship. And I talked about it on the website, but my dad was just going off on the just the image. Oh, first thing you tell me, you want me to see this as an example, and the first thing I see is a guy with two women. What do you want me to think? Because he was very, very and he kind of is, and it's very, very subconscious many times. Very, even if you're outspokenly open-minded, when you're caught in the situation, you prove that you're not that. You haven't really let that sink in. Even if you are outspoken about it, you're not really, you're still kind of repressed somehow with that. You're uncomfortable with it, with a situation like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we just don't. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to have been raised in a church to have that repression. That's been programmed in, even for those who were not raised as part of a religion. That whole asexual Jesus is huge.
Yeah.
And it's time to marry sexuality and spirituality, because that is exactly what Jesus did.
That's so good that you say that. So important.
And the fact that he was married to 3 women and it's been totally repressed for 6,000 years is just ridiculous.
This is so on spot. This is so much what needs to be spoken of when we talk about communities, when we talk about anything. We have to touch this. So are we going to continue with anything else? Start something new?
No, no, we're not nearly done. We're not nearly done with this subject.
Okay.
Not at all.
Continues? All right.
It will continue, yes. So, yeah, I mean.
The Arts of Seduction, Part 2?
Yeah. And we're going to start with some philosophy. But we've got to get past a god and even a goddess. I know the word goddess can encompass both. And for a couple of years now, I've been referencing the cosmic being as Great Mother.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one. It's the yin and the yang. It's the Shiva and the Shakti, the pictures we showed last week,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? We can't, there's nothing that would have brought us about if it wasn't the cosmic Great Mother, Great Father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not just, we've got to get away from just one. We're going to have to create a whole new, because all of these teachers from the early 1900s, these spiritual gurus like Joel Goldsmith,
Mm-hmm.
I forget which one it was. Joel Goldsmith definitely said, I do not see God as a white male being in the sky, but then he continues to refer to God as he only.
Mm-hmm.
Then I listened to another one that said, well, God is not a white male two-legged being in the sky. God is, but we don't have to call this power it,
Mm-hmm.
which I agree. But I guess and I know the word she would encompass both she and he, but
Mm-hmm.
our brains don't recognize that. So I think we need to, for now, I'll just be referring to that great cosmic power of, as Wilhelm Reich called orgone energy, as she.
Okay.
Great
Yeah, I
Mother,
guess
Great Father.
that's a challenge, introducing new vocabulary, and because as we change the paradigm, we need to change the new book. I mean, we need to step into the zone where there's no words for what we're trying to describe. So I guess we can use, and we understand if we didn't use the right word at some point, we have to be tolerant with that, knowing that let's not bury ourselves
we can't
with
keep
the
on
words.
calling God a he.
Yeah.
Because he by himself cannot do anything. She by herself cannot do
Mm-hmm.
anything. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be, right, a combination of the two all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to get past the language of God versus goddess. It has to.
Mm-hmm. It has to be not even asexual, but both sexes, kind of, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The chachawarmi, in the Aymara, the man and woman, because they're all about the chachawarmi. That's God, chachawarmi. Okay, so next week we'll be continuing this conversation about the arts of seduction and touching on all these philosophical necessities that we need to include in this movement, the adult movements of creating adultville pleasurable societies. If you want to be part of that, you can join OWL Teachings or OWL Council House Teachings. AlohaNidalLiving.com is the website. And if you have any questions, you can feel comfortable, please. No shame in putting them anywhere you want, in our website, in the comments, in this live stream, in the next live stream, or in whatever place you find fit. But the worst thing you can do is not participate. You have to participate. So thank you for being with us. And we wish you waterfalls of blessings.